Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ali Raza and I am second year medical student of Oish International Medical University. I belong to the group D, the institutors, and I am here to explain the topic hemostasis along with my group members. So, as you know, the hemostasis it is the first step in wound healing which tries to prevent or stop bleeding by formation of clot. So, it is the integrity of the blood vessels to carry blood to the tissues, and if there is any injury to any blood vessel of the body, then there will be the blood clot formation which prevents the bleeding and heals the injury. And in the clot formation, there are two types of hemostasis. The one is first order hemostasis or primary hemostasis, and the other is secondary hemostasis or second order hemostasis. And when any injury is caused to the blood vessel wall, then the platelets come and they will be attached to the blood vessel wall, and they form a platelet plug. While in the second order or secondary hemostasis, the platelet plug which was formed by first order or primary hemostasis is stabilized by fibrinogen activities and coagulation cascades. And the further about the hemostasis is explained by my group members.
Today my topic is about secondary hemostasis. In secondary hemostasis there is strong clot formation. How does strong clot formation occurs? At the end of cascade coagulation there is a thrombin formation which converts fibrinogen into fibrin and clot becomes formed. In secondary hemostasis there are three types of pathways: extrinsic, intrinsic and common pathway. Intrinsic pathway is kind of a long pathway as compared to extrinsic pathway. In intrinsic pathway, there is activated partial thromboplastin time and its time span is about 30 to 45 seconds. While in extrinsic pathway, there is prothrombin time and it is about 10 to 12 seconds, which is lifespan time. Intrinsic pathway starts with subendothelial damage, which stimulates factor 12. Factor 12 will stimulate 11, 11 will stimulate 9 and 8. 8 will also stimulate by calcium and Van-Welver factor, which is positive. And in extrinsic pathway, it occurs when there is tissue thromboplastin damage. It will stimulate factor 7 and factor 7 will stimulate 10. In intrinsic and extrinsic, they both stimulate factor 10. And from factor 10, there is common pathway starts, which ends at factor 1. Factor 10 will stimulate factor 5, factor 5 will stimulate factor 2, and factor 2 will stimulate factor 1. Now I will tell you about some clotting factor names which we already have studied, but we are going to revise them again. Clotting factor names. There is mnemonic for that. Foolish people try climbing long slopes. After Christmas, some people have fallen. Foolish means fibrinogen, people means prothrombin, try means tissue thromboplastin, climbing means calcium, long means labile, and there is 6 which is undetermined yet, and slopes mean stable. After mean antihemophilic A, cases means antihemophilic B, which is also known as Christmas factor. And from there, sum means Stewart power factor, and that Stewart power factor is also here, which is known as factor 10, where both extrinsic and intrinsic pathway stimulates at one place. So from people, it is antihemophilic factor C, having multiple names. Hag means Hagman factor, Fall means fibrin stabilizing factor, and 14 and 15 kallikrein, and 15 means platelets. Thank you.
My topic is platelets abnormality, which is also known as primary hemostasis disorders. Here are two types of platelets abnormality: qualitative and quantitative. In qualitative, we will discuss Bernard-Solid syndrome, Glanzmann thrombopenia, aspirin, and uremia. In Bernard-Solid syndrome, if platelets adhesion decrease, then due to some kind of receptors called GP1B receptor. In Glanzmann thrombopenia, platelet aggregation level decreases due to GP2B receptor 3A, GP2B 3A aspirin. In aspirin, cyclooxygenase pathway disturbed. Due to disturbance of cyclooxygenase pathway disturbance, there are no platelet segregation. In uremia, both platelet segregation and platelet adhesion, both levels are disturbed. In quantitative, we have further two types, which are skin and mucous membrane. In skin, we have petechia, purpura, and ecchymosis. In petechia, if size of forming clot is 1 to 2 millimeter, then it is petechia. If size of forming clot is greater than 3 millimeter, then it is purpura. If size of forming clot is between 2 or 3 millimeter, then it is ecchymosis. Here, mucous membrane, we will discuss epistaxis, hematuria, hemoptysis, intracranial bleeding, and menorrhage. In epistaxis, as we know, epistaxis is bleeding from nose. Hematuria, bleeding from urine. Hemoptysis, bleeding from respiratory system or cough during cough. Intracranial bleeding due to thrombocytopenia. And menorrhage, excessive bleeding through during menstruation cycle.
Assalamu alaikum. Today I am going to explain the secondary hemostasis disorder. The first one is hemophilia A. It is a deficiency of factor A, which is anti-hemophilic factor A. And next it is the X-linked disorder, and it is mostly occur in male. And it is the de novo, no family history. It is a new mutation. And the next one is it is a prolonged clotting time and normal bleeding time. And the hemophilia B, it is a deficiency of factor 9, which is Christmas factor. And the treatment is recombinant factor 9, and the next one is vitamin K deficiency. The vitamin K inactive form in the body, and the liver make the enzyme which is epoxide reductase. It converts the inactive vitamin K into active vitamin K, and which causes the gamma carboxylation of factor 2, 7 and 9 and 10 and protein C and F. And if there is a deficiency of vitamin K, there is no gamma carboxylation, no activation factor, and the next one is no coagulation cascade and no clotting factor, and the bleeding cannot stop. And let's see, if we talk about the newborn, in the newborn the flora is weak. They cannot get vitamin K from the GIT, and we can give the prophylactically vitamin K injections. And the next one is the long-term use of the antibiotic can also destroy the foreign bacteria and disturb the normal flora, which can cause the microbial disruption, and there is a decrease of the vitamin K. And the other deficiency factors is malnutrition and the molar blockage. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abdurrahman, and today I am going to explain about the ITP, stand for the idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura. Basically, this is the autoimmune disease in which the supreme form the IgG antibodies against the GP1B receptors and GP2A3B receptors. GP1B receptors are helpful in the platelet adhesion, and GP2B1A receptors are helpful in the platelet aggregations. And these receptors autoantibody formed against these receptors, and GP1B receptors are helpful in the platelet adhesion, and GP2B3 receptors are helpful in the platelet aggregation. And the splenic macrophages are engulfed these antibodies, autoantibodies, and the receptors, and engulfed by the splenic macrophages, and due to which the platelet adhesion and platelet aggregation activity does not occur properly. Because platelet adhesion, for platelet adhesion GP1B receptors are necessary, and for platelet aggregation GP2B and 3 receptors are necessary for the platelet adhesion and platelet aggregation. And if these receptors are not available, then the platelet adhesion and aggregation does not occur, and the bleeding cannot stop due to if any injury occurs. And here we discuss about the idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura types. Basically, there are two types: acute one and the chronic. In acute one, we discuss in the child, and chronic one we discuss in the adult pregnant female lady. The acute one is the self-limited. It is a self-limited means it is developed after the 1 week after the vaccination or the any infection. ITP may develop. And the chronic one, it is occur in the pregnant female lady. As we know, the IgG antibody may cross up. It is the only antibody which cross the placenta from mother, transfer from mother to the fetus. It may transfer to the fetus and cause the ITP, idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura. And here we discuss the lab diagnosis. In lab diagnosis, there is an increase in the bleeding time due to the abnormality in the these receptors GP1B and GP2B3 receptors, because the platelet adhesion and platelet aggregation activity does not occur properly, and the bleeding cannot stop and increase the bleeding time. Normal bleeding time is 2 to 7 minutes. Is the normal bleeding time in the healthy person. And there's a but the AAT and ATP does not disturb. Their time is normal. ATP and ATP, these are the for the coagulation factors. If the coagulation factors are disturbed, then this time is also disturbed. And here we discuss about treatment. In the ITP treatment, we give the corticosteroids to suppress the activity of spleen or to form the autoantibodies, and we also give the intravenous IgG antibodies. And the best treatment is to the splenectomy. We cut the spleen, the main reason for this disease. Thank you very much.
Walaikum, my name is Talha Ashif. Today we talk about DIC, disseminated intravascular coagulation. First of all, we talk about what is DIC. In this, there is widespread intravascular coagulation throughout the body, and other factor is there is overcoagulation cascade pathological in the overall body of the human. Then there is some symptoms of DIC is there is some chest pain, there is some neck pain, and shortness of breath. Then the effects of DIC. So some effects is ischemia and myocardial infarction due to wide spread of thrombi. There is heart. If there is microthrombi in some artery or vein, then there is a stop of blockage of heart. Then there is myocardial infarction, destruction of heart. Then we will talk about there is also decreased platelets plus clotting factors in this. In this there is skin bleeding and mucous membrane bleeding. Then we will talk about some other features. DIC is a secondary infection, not primary. If there is some other infection, then DIC will occur. Then in this obstructive complication occur. For example, in amniotic fluid there is a rich of factor 3, clotting factor 3, which is tissue thromboplastin. Then we'll talk about other factors such as sepsis. Sepsis means bacteria or coli. In this Escherichia coli, E. coli or Neisseria meningitis, endotoxin and cytokine which have interleukin 1 and TNF. Then it stimulates coagulation, and then other factors adenocarcinoma. It increases mucin production, then increase coagulation cascade. Then we talk about APL, acute proliferative leukemia. This increases the primary granules and increase clot formation. Then we lastly talk about rattlesnake bite. In this, first of all, it inserts its venom in the human body, then it's increases coagulation cascade and increases clot formation. Then we talk about some lab amounts. In DIC, there is decreased platelet count, decreased fibrinogen, increased PT and PTT, and increased D-dimer. D-dimer is best screening for DIC. Then we talk about some treatment. First of all, underlying the cause, which cause the disease, and blood transfusion, and cryoprecipitate, which is rich in clotting factors. Then we talk about mechanism of development leading to DIC, disseminated intravascular coagulation. First of all, there is some precipitate in it. In this we have the tissue factor and extrinsic pathway activation, which leads to coagulation cascade, which have intrinsic pathway and extrinsic pathway. Then there is excess thrombin. Excess thrombin leads to two pathways, microvascular clotting and macrovascular clotting. In microvascular clotting, there is thrombocytopenia, and there is excess clotting. In this, we have ischemia and impaired organ perfusion and end organ damage. Then we talk about excess thrombin also leads to conversion of plasminogen to plasmin, and it leads to fibrinolysis with excess FTPS, and consumption of clotting factors also occur in fibrinolysis with excess FTPS. Then there is excess bleeding. Then what is it? So there is shock, hypogeneralized hypertension, hypotension, and increased vascular permeability. Now this is our topic of dissimilarity intravascular coagulation therapy.
Today I'm gonna learn about hemophilia A and then further its types. Let's start. Hemophilia A is a hereditary bleeding disorder caused by a blood clotting factor 8. Without enough factor 8, the blood cannot clot properly to control bleeding. Then its types, there is three things. First disease, second factor deficiency, and then inheritance. In hemophilia A disease, the factor will be 8, factor deficiency will be 8, and inheritance X linkage recessive. And then hemophilia B disease, factor deficiency will be 7, and inheritance will be X linkage recessive. Hemophilia C, factor will be 11, and then inheritance autosomal recessive. And para hemophilia, factor deficiency will 5, and inheritance autosomal recessive.
And I would like to tell you about hemophilia B. Hemophilia B is a hereditary bleeding disorder caused by a lack of blood clotting factor 9. Without enough factor 9, the blood cannot clot properly control bleeding. Now I would like to tell about explanation of hemophilia B. Hemophilia is usually an inherited bleeding disorder in which the blood does not clot properly. This can lead to spontaneous bleeding as well as bleeding following injuries or surgery. Blood contains many proteins called clotting factor that can help to stop bleeding. Now I would like to tell about what happened in hemophilia B. Hemophilia B is a rare genetic bleeding disorder in which affected individuals have insufficient level of a blood protein called factor 9. Factor 9 is clotting factor. Clotting factor are specialized protein needed for blood clotting, the process by which blood seals a wound to stop bleeding and promote healing. Now I tell you about hemophilia B treatment. The most common treatment for hemophilia B is called replacement therapy. Concentrates of clotting factor 9 are the foundation of this treatment for hemophilia B and are administered as an infusion to help replace the clotting factor that missing or low in the blood. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Zunayan Zakir. Today we will discuss about deficiency of vitamin K. Vitamin K is necessary for proper functioning of coagulation factor and protein C and S. Protein C and S is helpful in prevention of bleeding after injury. And now functioning of vitamin K. Vitamin K is activated by epoxide, and epoxide is produced in liver. And epoxide activated the vitamin K. Carboxylation of after activation of vitamin K, carboxylation of the coagulation factor 2, 7, 9, 10 and protein C and S. And carboxylation is necessary for the proper functioning of coagulation factor 2, 7, 9, 10 and protein C and S. Now in deficiency of vitamin K, normally in newborn baby is active. Deficiency of vitamin K in newborn, so we how we treat this. Prophylactically, vitamin K injection is given to prevent the disease like hemorrhagic. And now the factor which disturb vitamin K, long-term antibiotic therapy and malabsorption which lower the deficiency of vitamin K.